General Hospital spoilers reveal that, eventually, the secrets and obsessions weighing on Jason and Sasha are exposed, spiraling them into a chaotic whirlwind no one can control. When Jason is forced to confess that he and Sasha fabricated a lie about the baby's father's identity, all the crazy consequences begin to unfold. What they thought was a temporary plan to protect Sasha has now turned into an uncontrollable storm, with a series of unforeseen repercussions. Carly, who has always seen Jason as an irreplaceable part of her life, feels betrayed, not because she doesn't believe Jason wanted to protect Sasha, but because he kept such a huge secret from her. To Carly, Jason has always been honest, someone she could trust under any circumstances. But now, with the truth exposed, she feels as though Jason has become a different person, a person hiding something too big to forgive easily. She is angry not just because of the lie, but because he put himself in a dangerous situation without telling her. What makes things even worse is Danny. The boy trusted his father, believing Jason always made the right decisions. But now, when the truth comes out, Danny feels as though his father has betrayed everything he once believed in. He's lost his mother, and now, the one father figure he could rely on has become a liar. Danny's anger is not just a spontaneous reaction, it's an explosion of all the hurt and loss he has tried to suppress for so long. Danny can't accept the truth that his father pretended to be the father of a child who wasn't his. He feels like this is not just a personal betrayal but an insult to the memory of his mother. He begins to question everything, whether Jason is still the father he once looked up to, or if he has turned into someone he no longer recognizes. And things don't stop there. When Michael finds out the truth, his anger pushes everything into an uncontrollable, tense state. Michael feels not only betrayed but as if Jason has stolen his chance to be a father. Even though he had previously accepted stepping away from Sasha to focus on treatment, Jason's interference and pretending to be the baby's father is unforgivable. This chaos doesn't just crack family relationships, it puts Jason in an extremely dangerous position. He's always acted for others, but this time, his actions have made him lose the trust of the most important people in his life. Carly can no longer see Jason the same way, Danny doesn't know if he can trust his father, and Michael might be willing to do anything to get Sasha and the baby back. Sasha, despite being grateful to Jason for helping her through a difficult time, also feels that this lie has gone too far. She doesn't want to be the cause of the rift between Jason and his family, but now, she can do nothing to stop it. Danny's anger is not just an emotional reaction, it's changing the way he sees the world around him. He's not only disappointed in his father, but he feels like he's losing control over everything in his life. Jason's hiding of the truth makes Danny feel like he's no longer a part of the family's important decisions. He begins to distance himself from Jason, asking a series of questions no one can answer. Carly, who has always seen Danny as her own son, can't bear to watch him spiral into anger and disappointment. But she also can't abandon Jason, who's always been there for her over the years. Carly is caught between two of the most important people in her life, on one side, Danny, who needs an explanation and comfort, and on the other side, Jason, who made a mistake but had a valid reason for protecting Sasha. However, what makes the situation even more tense is Michael's arrival. When he finds out that Jason pretended to be the baby's father, his anger erupts. Michael feels like Jason has taken his place, that he had no right to intervene in Sasha's life or their child's life. Michael's anger may drive him to make some rash decisions, especially as he feels pushed out of his son's life. Everything is getting more complicated than ever, and Carly knows that she can't let things continue this way. She has to find a way to heal the family before everything falls apart completely. But she also knows that's not going to be easy. Danny is becoming increasingly distant from Jason, Michael is losing control, and Sasha is caught between two men fighting for the title of father to the baby. Jason, despite knowing he made a mistake, can't easily back down. He's never been the kind of person to run away from responsibility, but this time, that responsibility is pushing him into an unwinnable situation. If he tries to fix things, will Danny accept him? If he backs down, will Michael take Sasha back? Port Charles is witnessing a new battle. Not between old enemies, but between people who were once family. The wounds, lies, and miscalculations are pushing them to the brink, and if they don't find a way to heal, there may be nothing left to save. Can Carly put everything back on track before it's too late? Or will this be the beginning of a new war between Michael, Jason, and Danny, a war no one can truly win? Danny couldn't take it any longer. He had kept quiet all this time, but the deception, the feeling of betrayal, and the mounting disappointment were weighing heavily on his mind. Jason, who he once idolized as a hero, had lied not only to the world but also to his own family. Danny couldn't accept that. And so, he decided to reveal the truth, no matter the consequences. The storm began when Danny bluntly stated the truth in front of Michael, Carly, and the others involved. All eyes turned to Jason and Sasha, who found themselves caught in one of the worst situations they had ever faced. Michael was stunned, unable to believe what he had just heard. He had spent months trying to recover and return to be a father to his child, only to come back and find Jason had taken that position. His anger erupted fiercely, and no one could stop it. Michael stormed toward Jason, confronting him with words full of rage and hurt. "How could you do this to me?" he spat. "You lied to everyone. You took my place next to Sasha and my son. What made you think you had the right to do that?" Jason, though always calm, couldn't deny what was happening. He knew he had made a huge mistake by letting things go too far. But deep down, he didn't regret protecting Sasha and the baby. What he hadn't anticipated was the backlash from Michael and the people closest to him. Sasha, who had always tried to avoid these troubles, was now caught in the middle of a storm she never wanted. She had already lost so much in life, Brando, Liam, her reputation, and now, she risked losing the peace she had tried so hard to hold on to. She couldn't bear to see Michael filled with anger, Jason being pushed into a difficult situation, and herself being seen as the manipulator behind everything. Carly, who had always stood by Jason, could no longer remain silent. She turned to Jason, her eyes filled with disappointment and anger. "What were you thinking, Jason?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I've always trusted you, but this time, you've gone too far. You've put Danny in this position, hurt Michael, and lied to those who love you the most." Jason had no excuse. He had done what he thought was right at the time, but now, with the truth exposed, he couldn't avoid the consequences. Danny, who had uncovered this secret, was no longer just an angry boy. He was carrying the pain of a child who had lost his mother and now felt like his father was no longer someone he could trust. He felt abandoned, as if Jason had prioritized protecting Sasha and the baby over considering his feelings. The sense of betrayal was turning into genuine anger. But what was even more concerning were the repercussions this truth could bring. If Michael decided to use this against Jason, would it escalate the war between them to a more dangerous level? If Carly no longer stood by Jason, would he lose his closest ally? And if Sasha felt she couldn't handle the pressure, would she decide to leave Port Charles to protect the baby? All these questions hung in the air, and no one had an immediate answer. The only thing certain was that Port Charles was in the middle of an unprecedented crisis. Jason was at a crossroads he never thought he would face. He had lost so much, and this time, could he salvage what was left? Or would this be the first time Jason Morgan truly failed, not before a dangerous enemy, but before the people he loved the most? Port Charles had never been peaceful, but this time, things had gone beyond control. And when this storm erupted, no one would be able to remain a bystander. Jason and Carly had never been the type to sit idly by and wait for danger to come. When the crisis surrounding Sasha and Michael's baby reached its peak, they knew it was time to act. The recent revelations about Jason pretending to be the baby's father had not only caused upheaval within the family but also attracted the attention of the most dangerous people in Port Charles, including Drew and Sidwell, two people with a plan that no one could predict. Although Carly was initially angry with Jason for keeping the secret, she understood that he had only acted with good intentions. Sasha was in danger, and without Jason's protection, she might not have survived the storms she had been through. But what mattered now wasn't blaming Jason, it was protecting Sasha and the baby from those lurking in the shadows. Sidwell, who was gaining more control over Drew, saw Sasha as a strategic pawn in his power play. He knew that if he could gain control over her, he would have a significant leverage against not only Jason but also Carly and Michael. Sidwell wasn't the type to simply threaten and wait. He was a man of action, and once he targeted someone, he wouldn't stop until he got what he wanted. Drew, once an ally of Jason, had changed. He was no longer the upright man that Jason and Carly knew. His cooperation with Sidwell had dragged him into a vortex of ambition and poor decisions. Drew believed he was doing the right thing, that Port Charles needed to be rebuilt the way he and Sidwell had mapped out. But he didn't realize he was being manipulated, that every step he took was controlled by Sidwell. Jason, with his strategic instincts, understood that time was not on their side. If they didn't act now, Sasha and the baby would become pawns in Sidwell's dangerous power game. He and Carly decided to team up, using all the resources they had to protect Sasha and stop Sidwell before he could go any further. Carly reached out to influential people in town, trying to track Sidwell and predict his next move. She knew Sidwell wasn't an easy person to deal with. He had an extensive network, and if they were to beat him, they had to stay one step ahead. Jason, meanwhile, kept an eye on Drew. He wanted to understand Drew's true motives, to see if there was any chance to pull him away from this dangerous path. But what Jason didn't expect was that Drew no longer wanted to be saved. Drew had sunk too deep into his relationship with Sidwell, and now, he saw Jason and Carly as enemies. Things became more complicated when Sidwell decided to act. He ordered Sasha's kidnapping, seeing her as a leverage to force Jason and Carly to yield. But Jason had anticipated this. He and Carly made a plan to outsmart Sidwell, getting Sasha to safety before he could act. When Sidwell realized Sasha had disappeared, he became angrier than ever. He ordered Drew to find her location at any cost. Drew, although a part of him still reminded him that he was on the wrong path, followed Sidwell's orders. But deep down, he started to feel doubts. Was he really doing the right thing? Meanwhile, Carly knew that this battle had only just begun. Sidwell wasn't the type to give up easily, and if he couldn't have Sasha this way, he'd find another way. She and Jason had to stay ahead of him, finding a way to take him down before he could hurt anyone else. The tension in town was rising. Port Charles had never seen a battle like this, a battle not between traditional criminal gangs, but between former allies, former family. Drew and Jason now stood on opposite sides, with Carly trying to hold everything together. But the biggest question still remained: could Jason and Carly protect Sasha and the baby from Sidwell, or would this be a battle they couldn't win? Would Drew realize he was on the wrong path before it was too late, or would he continue serving Sidwell without realizing the consequences? One thing was certain: Port Charles was on the brink of a much larger conflict than ever before. And when this battle erupted, no one could predict who would come out victorious.